Hello and welcome to another episode of CollectaThoughts, the show where I collect my thoughts on a video game I've played, sort of like a mini review. More focused on people who kinda already know about video games rather than being a review for people who just don't know nothing and it's very explanatory. This one is a lot more loose, I guess would be the way to put it. So today we have GTA Vice City, a game I was meaning to play for years. It was a game I tried to finish years ago, and it was a game I just played a lot during my childhood, which I know kids shouldn't play GTA, but we did anyways. And returning to this game was interesting, mostly due to how I think this game has changed for me as a gamer and how I perceive games, because the game has aged, but I can still find very much a lot to enjoy here, while also being easily able to critique it to hell and back. And to start with it, I guess I want to start about the things that I think changed in my mind. For starters, I found that the minigames were a lot easier going back to them than they were in my mind. The helicopter mission I actually had to do twice because I corrupted one of my saves, which is another problem I want to talk about, specific to the PC version. But like I was saying, the mini games are actually not that bad, especially the one I think we all remember because it was the first one, which is the carrying the bombs to the building one. That one is surprisingly easy. You just kind of have to use the number pad and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe that's why we thought it was hard as kids, because we just kind of didn't know how to use it, because it just had weird controls, I don't know, but they're fine, they're easy to get behind, they're easy to understand. Maybe the hard part is that people attack you while you're doing it, but you're a helicopter, you can just fly over them. The only big problem would be when they shoot at you, but I didn't even get them shooting at me too much. One of the things I did that I thought was what made it so easy was I put the top floor bomb first, and that makes all of the guys just fall because they run after you through the stairs, and so they just all end up in the first floor, making it very easy to go put the rest of the bombs. But that wasn't the problem, as in my second run at it I just did it very normally, and I still just kinda did it maybe even in less time because I was just better at the controls. So I don't know, maybe this is a thing where like, oh, it was harder as a kid, so we all remember it as hard. What is harder though than it felt as a kid was the shooting. My god, do people in this game just destroy you while you're reloading? You cannot shoot at people in the open. You just always have to be playing by some corner or behind something, because the AI here either misses you completely or just absolutely shreds you. And, unless the level has some health or a vest if you're lucky, there's just no way to recover health, and levels rarely do have any of that. And when you die, you go to a hospital and lose all your weapons, which has always been absolutely infuriating in a GTA game, as we all know. The good thing here is that also a taxi just pops up and takes you to where the mission starts, which is a nice thing, even if we all know that in GTA Vice City also, where the mission starts is not where the mission actually starts. You always just get told to drive somewhere, which at the end of the day really just makes an annoying situation slightly less annoying. Thankfully though, if you're willing to do it, there are tons of cheats. The now forgotten or maybe dead piece of games that we all know went away because of microtransactions and because publishers wanted a way to monetize it. I have a few choice words for whoever started that, but that's not what I'm here to talk about, as I actually think that even beyond making the game easier, there's a lot of fun cheats here. Things like being able to just give everyone guns or make the traffic go crazy, make cars fly, was always a really cool thing, especially as a kid. Because while Vice City has a really cool world, it is also very barren outside of the main missions. There isn't a whole lot of side activities, and I would say that playing drug dealer and cab driver isn't particularly the most fun side activities. So having these cheats to just kind of create your own mayhem and kind of create your own game does add a new life to the game after you've beaten it, or even just while you're playing it for fun. I know that might be like a crazy concept, fun, I know. But speaking of this cab driving and drug dealing, I totally forgot, because I never finished the game before this, that at a certain point you just don't have main missions on the map, and what you have to do is go buy property and do those missions to quote unquote secure an asset. And you have to secure 5 assets to get the final mission, which I'll also go into a bit more later. But some of these are really cool. Some of these have their own missions, they have the type of things that would become mainstays of the series, like for example, heists. It's also during these missions we see some of the more crazy characters of this world, which is again something that is very GTA-like, that maybe wasn't so much there in 3. So in that way, GTA Vice City is actually a lot more reflective of what GTA would become eventually, but not all of these are gold. There's also certain assets that you can acquire that are very boring. You know, there's the sell 50 drugs through your ice cream truck. It sounds cool on concept, but it's really just driving around and selling people drugs in the street and avoiding the cops. It's really boring, and 50 is a big number. The other one that I would complain about is also the strip club one. It's really just watch the girls dancing, which, PS2 graphics. It's more funny than anything else, but still, you kind of just have to stand there for a while, as you have to spend a bunch of money and watch each girl. It takes no effort, it only takes money, and it's kind of weird, but sure. They already have very sexually focused missions in these asset bits with the movie business, so I get why maybe not do that again, but I don't know, it just kind of feels like it's tacked on or like a freebie for you if you don't want to do the other missions. But the thing to comment about these assets is I explain it very simply, but the game kind of doesn't. It tells you that you have to go and buy these properties and that they have missions, but it doesn't tell you that that's how you progress the game. You just kind of have to assume, and that's okay. But I wouldn't have mind just being told, yeah, 5 assets is what you need, rather than just kind of being blind. Because what happened was I didn't realize that there were more asset missions. I thought I had done them all, because some of them just don't have waypoints to them like every other mission, where you can see it on the map no matter where you are. It will just point you in the general direction of it. They are still in the map, but they're just a symbol of your asset, so it's kind of hard to know if there's actually a mission there. And so what I kind of ended up doing was I almost 100%ed this game because I didn't know, which is fine. A lot of these side missions are actually a lot better than some of the main ones. Like for example, the mission that follows the band from the radio, Love Fist, which are like a Scottish band full of drug addicts. You probably get the idea of what they're parodying here. And it's fun. There's a mission where you jump buildings and it's kind of unique. Actually, finally finishing this game gave me a lot of appreciation for Vice City, because for a long time I thought that it kind of lacked mission variety. Like for example, its sequel, San Andreas. But that's not really true. There is quite a lot to do. It's just kind of late in the game, which is still a weird thing to do, but I guess it is rewarding people who stick with the not so great parts. Yeah, I'm trying to defend it, but I don't know how. Regardless, besides the shooting, which is the main part, the game is actually really good, which is a weird thing to say, but I guess it's something you have to take. It is a game from the early PS2 era, or I guess mid era. It's not really early. Early would be like Grand Theft Auto 3. But yeah, now let's move on to graphics. I want to talk about it as well. And the first thing to say is, if you're playing the PC version, you have to play with that smearing mode off. It is just hard on the eyes. If you're playing the PC version, this isn't a problem, since I actually had to play a modded version that had it to be able to use it, but fair to say I didn't. But this also brings up why I have to play a modded version. I just kind of ended up going online and looking for a version that I thought would run well. Because the original version of this game kind of hates me. It loves bugging, it loves corrupting my saves, it loves crashing, it loves just not booting up at all. It is a game that kind of doesn't like modern computers, which makes it hard to recommend, right? It is something that turns people off from playing the game, and it's totally fair. This is why I actually think that remasters are an alright thing, especially if they don't change too much of the game. I know a lot of people can be against remasters because they just kind of take it as remakes, but I actually think that remasters for the most part are fine. It's fine that these companies are cashing in on their older games as long as they run well and they're priced accordingly. Because I just want to be able to, you know, play a game on whatever platform I need to. But regardless, GTA Vice City actually still looks good. Obviously character models are very dated, but the world itself is very realized. It's a parody of 80s Miami and it looks really cool, you know. It goes through all of the stereotypes and it's full of neon, more than anyone could handle, but it's cool, it looks good. I will say, playing this, the world feels small. It's kind of crazy because, you know, you never really think about that stuff. GTA Vice City was always the smaller game as a kid, you know, because as a kid, both GTA Vice City and San Andreas was a thing, and most of us kind of played Vice City because our computers couldn't run San Andreas, and that was kind of the main thing. But it also kind of works because you just learn the city really well. By the end of the game, I just, you know, if someone told me where to go, I just kind of knew it, and I didn't really have to look at the map as much, which is a big selling point of having like a smaller map. Soundtrack wise, though, it is not small. This is amazing. I mean, this is probably one of the best radios in all of GTA. There's just so much to choose from, and there's absolute classics. Obviously they're going for that 80s feel, so there's a lot of 80s music, and it kind of just sets the mood, you know. It really sells this world. I don't think this game would be the same without this music, and it's kind of hard to think about that there might be a version without this music. I mean, they're planning to remake this game apparently. There's a rumor going around about it, and by the time this video comes out it might already been announced as well, since the rumors do hint at this year and there's a big conference the day I'm recording this. But regardless, if anything, I just hope they keep the music. Final thing I actually want to talk about is the story, which is funny because you know, in my reviews I always just speak about the story first, but this time we're leaving it for the end, and the reason for that is, you know, this game kind of follows that story of the from nothing, you know, rags to riches kind of story, where our character comes from prison, he's already involved with the mafia, and he's told to do this job, the job goes wrong, and from that point on you basically have nothing and you have to build yourself up and, you know, own the city, kind of like Scarface, which this game is very heavily influenced by. But the problem here is the end. So, to spoil both GTA Vice City and Scarface, at the end of Scarface kinda dies. Not kinda, but you know. And the point of that is that, you know, you built yourself up to this degree, and to get there you had to cross people and make so many enemies. And of course what you're doing is also bad, you're kind of a bad person, you're doing crime, and you know, this ending is sort of to be like stuff catches up to you, which is a very simple way of putting it. But in GTA Vice City you kind of just own everything now, and no one can do anything to you because you kind of just dealt with your biggest threat. In fact, it kind of leaves you hanging on the idea that you're gonna get even more, which personally is just not a good way to end this type of story. It's like glorifying crime. To me, it's like, imagine a Martin Scorsese movie where the guy just steals everything, you know, the fucking Wolf of Wall Street, just does whatever he wants and then the police never comes for him. That's what this feels like. Yeah, he loses his quote-unquote best friend, but he also never really had the best character development, so it's like, who cares? It's weird to rant about a nearly 20-year-old game at this point, but that's what it feels like. And it's not gonna bother you. It didn't even bother me that much, but I just thought it was funny. Like, crime pays. Well, it does, but I don't want to get too political in this review. Anyways, that was a joke. Let's keep this lighthearted. As I am giving GTA Vice City a classic out of 10. No, I'm kidding, I'm not that kind of reviewer. I'm giving Vice City an 8 out of 10. Yes, the shooting sucks and the checkpoint system could be a lot better, but still I really enjoyed this. And yeah, a lot of it was nostalgia, but it is still a really well realized world. It is a really unique setting that we don't really see in games, especially done well. And it's, an era of GTA that just is no longer here. It's still not my favorite GTA, I would still say that's San Andreas for me, but it is a close second. I do think I probably like this more than GTA 5, even if it's not nearly as complex or as advanced of a game as that one is. Regardless though, recommendations wise, can you put up with old PC games not running well on Windows 10 or 11 by the time you watch this video? Then sure, go ahead, just be careful to not corrupt your save. And if that's a worry of yours, then maybe just play the console version, which shouldn't have any problems, I think. But you are gonna get that smeary trails thing, so just be aware of that. It is one of those things that I personally think has aged really bad. But it is a recommendation. I do think you should play it if you enjoy GTA, especially these older GTAs, and somehow you missed Vice City, or maybe you never finished. I guess that's a better point. Maybe you never finished, and then life just happens. It's been 20 years. I think it's okay to go back and finish it. Close that chapter in your life or something like that, or maybe you moved on. That's fine too. But I think you should finish it. Okay. Regardless of any of that, I hope that you enjoyed watching. I hope you subscribe, like, and comment, all things you can do for free here on YouTube. And regardless of that, I hope you're having a good day, and goodbye.